Welcome to the NFP Podcast, where we explore the empowering world of natural family planning. I'm Amy Smith. Join me and my co-host Emily Appledorn each week. Together, we're here to dive deep into the science, the stories, and the spirituality behind NFP. Every week, we push back against the free love culture and advocate for a culture of responsible love, where intentionality and respect are at the forefront of family planning. Join us as we discuss everything from the practicalities of charting and fertility awareness to the profound impact NFP can have on relationships and communities. Whether you're new to NFP or a seasoned pro, our podcast is your go-to resource for honest conversations, expert insights, and real-life experiences. So grab a friend, settle in, and get ready to be inspired. This is the NFP Podcast.
Okay.
All right, let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody.
Welcome back.
Emily and I are going to talk today about NFP in the early years. So looking at, which is what I thought would be a fun title.
That's fun.
So we're going to talk about our young girls and the adolescent years and kind of the onset of menstruation during that puberty time. And we're going to talk about health parameters, like what to be looking for, what's normal, what may be a little bit abnormal, things to consider, provide you guys with some of our favorite resources for young girls, and and then just kind of throw in any other anecdotes we can think of. So I really want to, let's just start kind of with the anatomy part. Does that sound good, Emily?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So during the adolescent years, we have the maturation, so the maturing of the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis, adrenal axis. So the HPA axis is what it's called for short. And basically all that means is that when girls are getting ready to ovulate for the first time, and then shortly after that, they'll see their first menstrual bleed. What is happening is the brain is starting to communicate to the ovaries. Now, there's no one knows as of yet why. It's still kind of a mystery. What triggers the starting of this process? So we don't know what triggers the starting of it, okay? But it does tend to start around 12, 13 years of age. And what happens is the brain starts to communicate to the ovaries, and the ovaries communicate back to the brain. So they're developing this like pathway, this channel, this axis is what it's called. And as that is developing and maturing, as it reaches the state of maturity, that's when the body can ovulate. So when the brain can actually communicate to the ovaries, and the ovaries can communicate back to the brain, well, then the signaling and the hormone changes lead to ovulation for the first time, and then subsequently period, because that's what comes after a woman ovulates if she's not pregnant. So the first menstrual bleed is a sign that we've had an ovulatory event about 2 weeks before we see that bleed. And like I said, that's around 12 to 13 years is on average in the US. That's like the median age of your first menstrual period. And so after the first menstrual period, right, we still have that axis maturing. And that maturation process takes about 1 to 3 years to solidify. So it's a very sensitive time, I would argue, this maturation time. And because this communication pathway is maturing and developing, it is going to lead to some cycle, quote unquote, abnormalities. It's only abnormal when we compare it to an already mature woman's HPA axis, who has been doing this for years and it's got it down and nothing's new and it's got a good pattern. And so we see for her, it's just kind of like clockwork, and she's got a 28-day cycle and she ovulates around day 14, and there you go. Now for the young girl who's still maturing, we'll see cycle length variability. That's how we can tell that we're still in this maturing process. And that's normal because, again, we're maturing. Cycle length variability, and we'll go into days and kind of I'll give you specific numbers. There is kind of a within normal range, and then some things that maybe we still want to investigate even during this maturing process that might be a little out of the norm. But to say that cycles are varying and you don't have a standard 28-day cycle when you're a young girl within the first couple of years of having your period. In fact, I read one study this morning that even said, within the first 10 years, we can see some abnormalities, that we shouldn't be so quick to medicate this abnormal cycle pattern, because it's not abnormal for the young adolescent girl to have varying cycle lengths most of the time. In fact, if we're seeing abnormal cycle lengths, we should, at first, I think the first kind of way to address it is to just be tracking it, just be charting it and tracking it. And if we have no other symptoms, there's no pain during periods, the menstrual bleed looks good, we're just having like varying cycle lengths from one cycle to another, but it's still within the range of, 21 to 45, then things are going just fine. So wait it out. Let's not address something that's not an issue with a medication, because it's not a problem at the moment. So anyway, I think that to me is like the best place for us to start the conversation, is to just say cycle variability, length variability during these years is normal and healthy because of this maturing of the HPA axis and that developing of the communication. It's kind of like we're turning on the system. If you've ever been away from your house and you shut off the water and you go on vacation for a long time and you come back and you try to like turn everything back on. I know sometimes like you turn on the faucet and you turn on the water and then you go turn on the faucet and like it's a little wonky what's coming out for a little bit, And I feel like that's kind of the best way to describe this, is like we're trying to start, like a system is turning on in the body, and we need to give it time to like mature and, even out and regulate. So anything there, Emily?
One thing I would just, add to that would be, yes, I agree. And research has shown the cycle lengths vary, just like we're talking about. I think the majority of moms and that I talk to that do have concerns, if there is a varying length of days in the cycle, there's also something else that's concerning them. So whether that's pain or I guess primarily maybe pain or mood, mood shifts or mood changes, and different things like that. I guess I'm not trying to overthink this, but I'm just, I think a lot of times, so a mom might see this varying length of days between one menstrual period to the next. And it's not necessarily that is of concern, but they are, hearing from their daughter or seeing them in pain, in particularly, I think, pain. And so then they hear, okay, you're in pain and you're not bleeding regularly, quote unquote. And so there's a real concern. And I think that a lot of times they don't know how to help their daughter in the best way. And so, so all of that, we'll address all of that. But I think it's very common, I guess, what I'm saying, for teens to be experiencing something other than just quote unquote irregular menstrual periods at this time. And so then that leaves their mom with their hands tied, not wanting to introduce something to frustrate all of that, like hormonal, the birth control pill, hormonal contraception, but also wanting to help their daughter. So I think that's a lot, that concern is on a lot of moms' minds, I think.
So if the concern is the symptoms that present, because we have this, so if we just think about this, right, physiologically, it makes sense. So I'm saying that the system is maturing, it's developing, and the system is highly impacted with your hormones, and hormones impact a lot of other systems in the body, like your mental system. So like your mental health, right? So you could be experiencing different emotional fluctuations.
Right.
For sure, those things are not comfortable, right? Or you're experiencing pain, right? If you're having your period pain. And again, we're talking like things that are super debilitating.
Right.
This is outside of the realm of norm. Okay, that's outside of the realm of norm. So if it's just some like discomfort and irritation, like there are a lot of, things that are not going to mess with the maturing of your system, but can help ease the period symptoms. So we can help assist girls through this time to make it less cumbersome on their, their life because they're still young, right? So, you kind of went from being this like, maybe you were able to do all the things without,
Yeah.
having to stop and use a pad or use a tampon or feel crampy or have backaches. Like you didn't have this before. And now, and depending on your age group or
Yeah.
your friend group, everyone might be going through this at different times. So maybe you're the only one. So that could also be really frustrating during this time too. And I get the appeal of going to the doctor saying, here's the issue. Like, I just want to be on birth. Like, either I want to be on birth control or what can you do? And they offer birth control and you take it because it just seems like, okay, well, if I just shut this system down, even though it's not telling you that's actually what it's
Right.
doing. What it's doing is it's just shutting this system down. Well, that would be a lot easier because then I
Right.
won't have to deal with all these other peripheral things that are coming about because I'm going through
Right.
this maturing process.
So hard.
I get it. I totally get it. I say it's hard. That's totally hard. Yes.
Exactly.
But it's
Yeah.
not an all or
Right.
nothing.
Right.
That's an all or nothing approach. It's not an all or nothing approach. Like, this is where I feel like
Right.
we have to be coming alongside people and, moms and parents, like part of our job is to like be there for our children when they're going through hard things. And that doesn't necessarily mean always getting rid of all of the hard thing at one time, right? Like, so we walk through it with them and we give them as much support as possible. I'm not saying like,
Right.
oh, my daughter's in pain. Well, she's just got to suffer through it
Right.
every month. Like, no, let's help her. Let's deal with that. Like, and if it is something that's causing, severe,
Right.
debilitating, I can't go to school, I can't
Right.
function. Well, then we got to, there's an underlying cause there. It's not just this maturing of the system. The maturing of the system is not going to cause that. Like, there's something else going on. We got to figure it out. But if we're just talking like kind of standard,
Uncomfortable. Yeah.
PMS, crampy, not feeling great, like there's exactly, we're uncomfortable. There
Yes.
are tons of lifestyle things that we can do to help address those and supplements that can be taken to help support your cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And there's good research on a lot of them nowadays. And then there's just some anecdotal experience that a lot of women have tried over the years. So yeah. So anyway, I'm hesitant to say like, in most cases,
Right.
it's because there's something even greater going on that's what concerns. I think it's just, maybe, and I mean this with so much kindness, young girls, because I was once one that if you're just whiny to your mom and you're really annoying for quite a long time, she
Yeah.
might just say, what can I give my daughter to make her stop? And so, and there you go, you get your way. And you don't have to deal with this anymore. And it's not uncomfortable at school. Like all of these things I get we have to talk about and consider as part of this. But I don't feel like it's justification to just shut down the system. And
Yeah.
there's ramifications for that. That's basically what I say. Because this time is setting up something, we want to set her up well for life. And we also don't want to view this as like a burden. I get that getting a period is
Right.
not the most glamorous thing you're ever going to have in your life. But we don't want it to be seen as a burden. Your body is not a burden to you or to other people, to doctors. And so, yeah, we just want to be
Right.
careful not
This
to like
is a
have
sign
that
of
be the
health.
message either.
And so that's, yeah, it's the whole system is very precious. Very, very precious.
It is, yes. And so we want it to, as any other system in our body, we want to make sure that it's healthy. So, and this is important because basically the goal is ovulation. We want to get girls ovulating well in their early years, understanding their cycle patterns, understanding what to look for so that they have an idea of what's healthy. And so over the course of their reproductive life, as they move through life, if things are changing and evolving, they can pick out what's not healthy and they can get that addressed. And they can be bold and courageous in those appointments to say, don't just give me a pill, like figure out what's going on here. You know what I mean? I mean, if the pill's like Tylenol because I'm in pain, that's one thing. But like, don't just shut down the system. Like, figure out what's up with the system and let's get a solution to it. So, okay, let's go through. I'm going to post this too, so you guys have it as a resource. But there's a great, it's my like kind of go-to reference. It's a committee opinion from the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. It's what spawned me wanting to go back to get my master's in community health and like really address the adolescent population. So in 2015, which is almost 10 years ago, wow, a long time. They wrote this opinion piece about using the menstrual cycle as a vital sign. And what the committee here is basically recommending is that at every appointment, clinicians will educate girls and their caretakers about their first menstrual period and a range of a normal, healthy cycle and their subsequent menstrual periods. Now, in this article, there's a lot of focus on the menses. So once girls begin menstruating, doctors are supposed to, and as a preventative measure, preventative care, they want to ask them about the first day of the last period and the pattern of the menses is what this committee kind of recommends. Now, I would go further to add on to that to say the pattern of the cycle. So I just spoke with a girl the other day and she contacted me. She's in my area because she has varying cycle lengths. And she had a question about that. Like, is that normal? Is that not normal? And we had a really good conversation, but I had to get more information. And my question to her was, well, she's a teenager and she's been tracking her cycle, Emily. It's really impressive. She like observes her mucus and tracks it in an app too. I'm like, this is so great. She's not sexually active. I'm like, girl, you are just so ahead of the game. I know, I was trying to encourage her so much. Anyway, but she basically, so we were talking about it and I didn't have her chart, so I couldn't see it. So I was asking her to just describe to me what her cycle patterns look like. And what I was trying to get at, and this is what I was telling her, is like, we want to know, where is this variability showing up? Is it before you ovulate or is it after you ovulate? Like, where is the variability? Just because even though it's good to know like the first day of your period, there's so much happening. It's like an orchestra is happening in between the time of your first period and your next period that we need to know a little bit more information. So where's your mucus pattern? Okay, and then how many days is it between your period and your mucus pattern? And then how many days is it between your mucus pattern and your next period? Like, that's actually even a better, more in-depth question, I think. So it's not just the pattern of the menses, important, but then going from there, what's the pattern of the mucus pattern? What's your mucus pattern? And then let's do some math, right? How many days is it between your period and your mucus pattern and between your mucus pattern and your next period? Are you seeing multiple mucus patterns? What does that look like? So anyway, this is just one of the suggestions is to like track your last period. Now, I don't know about you, but I still don't hear a lot of clinicians asking these questions. And I don't have a young daughter, but I've asked people who have young daughters and I don't hear this conversation happening. They'll ask about the first day of your last period and that's where the conversation ends. And I think maybe that's being done just to make sure you're having a period. And it's not crazy long, like if you say the first day of your last period was 3 months ago, like, okay, that'll send off a red flag. But if it was like 30 days ago, okay, well, that's great. But they're not asking any more symptoms, like how many days of your period. And this is, and to the credit of the ACOG, that they are suggesting that doctors do that though. They ask a little bit more information, like what's the pattern of the menses, like get into the detail and then spend time educating the patient about what's healthy and what's not healthy. So, okay, let's start going into a little bit about this. What does the normal menstrual cycle in adolescent girls look like? Okay, so here's kind of a summary of the research at this moment. So on average, the median age of girls starting their first period is around 12 and a half. So that means the year before that, so around 11, that maturing process was starting to take place. 11 and a half, that maturing process is starting to take place. The average cycle length is going to be about 32 days. A typical range of normal cycle length variability is 21 to 45 days among the adolescent population. The average menstrual flow length is going to be 7 days or less, so it could be anywhere from 3 to 7 days. We want a specific pattern, though, for the menstrual flow. And Emily and I talked about this in a previous episode, right? We want it to come on, start heavy, and then get lighter. Or we want it can start light, get heavy, and go back to being light. And then the idea of like, if I'm losing too much blood, like what's the right amount of blood? Obviously, no one's measuring that, but we kind of look at it in like feminine product use. So are you using about 3 to 6 pads or tampons a day? Like that's probably a good measurement of like a good flow. And it's going to vary, 6 will be on the heavier side, 3 would be on like the lighter side. Now, if you just happen to change your pad more frequently, like personally, I probably go through more than that because every time I go to the bathroom, I usually change it. So all the people who want to shame me for wasting things, go for it. But I just don't like to if I'm in there, I'm like, I'm just going to
Yes.
put something new on because that would make me feel a little bit better. So those are some basic parameters. Yeah, as far as just kind of looking at numbers.
I don't think so. I think
anything, Emily, you want to add?
that's a great place to start. Just to give women and moms the idea of what is normal. So often we're not told.
Right. Yeah. And as far as symptoms go, we should having mood fluctuations, that comes with hormone variability sometimes. We just don't want anything on the extreme. So we're going to look at, the normal bell curve, right? Take it back to a statistics class. And we have the tail ends, right, on either end. And those are kind of the extremes on either side. We're looking at mainly what's under the bell curve, the normal. And under the normal, right, we might feel we're bleeding. So the rupturing of a follicle is an inflammatory experience in our body. So where are we at baseline? Okay, looking at outside of just having our menstrual period, where's our health at just starting here? And we've got to be honest about that. What is our lifestyle, right? Do we move our body in a healthy way? Do we drink do we drink water regularly? Are we drinking enough water? Are we eating nutrient-dense foods? Or are we not, right? Are we contributing to a very inflamed, uncomfortable internal state? And then we're adding an inflammatory experience on top of that that's just naturally occurring. So when we're bleeding, that's an inflamed experience. And when we ovulate, it's a rupturing of something in our body. So it's automatically kind of an inflammatory experience. And we can add insult to injury by different lifestyle things, a lot of it with diet and movement, a lot of it with diet, and supplementation, but those things can be corrected and helped. So, and I would say that also adds an obstacle to this age group because while I'd like to give adolescents a lot of, benefits of the doubt, or really just it doesn't have to be this way. I think the stereotype, quote unquote, for adolescents is that, you're moody and you just eat junk food and you're just are unproductive. And it's that does not have to be the norm. No, I've met very, very many pleasant adolescents who are not unproductive, who are doing great things with their time and with their talents. And they're not, and they're in good command of their emotions and their personalities and how they speak. They're full of virtue. So just don't let that quote unquote norm be an excuse for kind of, I guess, poor behavior or lifestyle choices, or thinking that there's not another way, because there is another way. Yeah. So, okay. So let me see. If there's anything else I wanted to say about that. Cycle length,
you could talk about also
ovulation,
just the timing for the breast budding and that being an external sign.
Right. So what do they call it? Breast. There's a term for it. Hang on. What is it called? I know it's breast buds are usually what we call it. But it's anyway, breast. Yeah. So women should begin to menstruate within 2 to 3 years of after developing their breast buds. We'll just stick with breast buds because that's easier. So after girls have they start to see their breasts develop, within 2 to 3 years of that, they're going to have their first period. Now, if moms and girls, if they're on top of it, moms are on top of it, conversation you might want to be having with your daughters, once you start to see this breast development taking place, you can have conversations with them about the cervical mucus, that, okay, we're going to have this switch is turning on inside of you, right? This maturing process is turning on. And as this gets more mature, well, then your estrogen is going to start to rise as we get closer to ovulation. And what that looks like in a cycle pattern, if you will. So if you're observing this, is she's going to start to see patches of mucus as she gets closer to her time of ovulation. So she'll be dry most of the time, and then she'll see patches of mucus, then she'll be dry, a little bit of mucus, dry, a little bit of mucus, until she gets to her ovulatory, until she actually ovulates. And this will be really very observable within 6 months of her ovulating. So within 6 months of her ovulating, she's going to start to see these mucus patterns, these mucus patches for weeks at a time, right? Over the course of 6 months. And then she'll have her actual mucus, her fertile window, her ovulatory window, and she'll see mucus consistently. And then she'll ovulate. She'll have a peak type mucus, that egg white stuff. It'll go away. And then about 2 weeks later, she'll have her first period. So it's a way that she can, even if you catch the breast development, that you can really be ahead of the game, and she would never be caught off guard. Like, oh wow, it's not like when I remember when I got my first period, I was like, whoa, I got my period. Like, I did not have any idea that it was coming. I just knew it was going to show up one day, like a boogeyman, like come out somehow. And I had no idea, it was like totally unpredictable. And basically, I guess what we want you guys to know is like, it's actually not. Like, you can be prepared even for your first period. You could be prepared for your first period. It's not going to be a total shocker. You might not be able to time it exactly, but you can know like, okay, this is going to happen. And so maybe I can just start to carry a pad in my backpack, like just in case, or keep it in the back of my locker, or
I feel like
make sure
to
it's at home in
know
the bathroom
just
somewhere.
very little about what is happening can empower you so much at that age. When I started my period, I didn't know that that's what it was. I didn't know for a couple days, actually, because the blood flow I was experiencing was not what I was experiencing or what I was expecting to see with a period. Mine was brown. And so I thought it wasn't even registering that this could be my period. And so just the knowledge of just a little bit about our bodies at that time in our life can really change our whole experience for the better.
And I feel like there's, I'm not someone that's in the camp of, I met people who are in this world that are very like, the periods, like they're period cheerleaders. Like, I'm definitely not like a period cheerleader. I get that, like, it's not the most exciting thing. You might not want to be shouting it to the rooftop that you got your period. That's totally fine. I respect that. I'm in that same camp. But it is a sign of health. It is a good thing. It's definitely not something to ever be ashamed of. So we have to also make sure we're not going into that realm either of like, oh, this is something I want to hide because it's bad. It's not. It's great. It's a sign that you're healthy. It's good. It just doesn't have to be the be all end all of your life either. It's like, get your period, you kind of move on. Check it, make sure it's healthy, and go about your life. So, but I do have a very vivid memory of being on the swim team when I was in late elementary school, and I was at swim practice. And swim practice, there was it was like a community swim team, so there were girls and boys from middle school to elementary to high school, basically. And I was in the bathroom, and this girl was in the stall, and she like screamed, and her mom went in there with her, and it was like this big dramatic ordeal. And then I come to find out, I was asked my mom about it, and she's like, oh, she got her first period. Like, my mom is very approachable about all these things and nonchalant. And my mom was really great about this stuff. She's like, yeah, she got her period. That's good. But I was like, why was it like this horrible, terrifying experience? And anyway, probably because she wasn't expecting it. And she was at swim practice, and she started bleeding. Like, oh crap, what do I do? And then in that case, she'd have to use a tampon because you can't use a pad in the pool. So that was probably awkward and uncomfortable. And her mom had to go in there, and like, it's just not a scenario we want to be having if we can avoid it, Whereas if she had been aware that this was coming, that, even if it came when she was at swim practice, it wouldn't have been a total shocker. Been like, okay, maybe the timing of this isn't great. Like, I'm at swim practice. I don't want my period to be coming right now, but it is what it is. So what can we do? Either I'll go home and I'll come back, I'm just done with practice for today, and I'll come back for the next practice, or let's, use a tampon and get back in the pool and keep swimming. So yeah, I just don't want it to be a fear-based thing. I don't want people to I just don't want women to be shocked, like young girls. No, there's no need to be shocked nowadays.
That is exactly what I was going to say.
You don't have to be shocked.
Even if you're a mom listening to this and you're not feeling like it might be comfortable to have these conversations, or even if you're a young teen listening to this, you feel like you don't have somebody like your mom that you feel like you could talk to about this. There's so much information out there, and we're going to provide some good sources so that you can be prepared, because I realize not everyone has the best relationships or people in their lives that they really feel like they could trust. And so that can feel lonely in certain times, whether that's a mom trying to talk to her daughter and that relationship is not what she would really like it to be, or vice versa. And so there's help for that.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Emily. That's true. It's not always the easiest to talk to. I had a very good experience with my mom. So, yeah, but it's a good That's a good reminder for me, actually, as someone who's talking about this information, presenting it, to have more compassion for that situation. That might be harder. And so let's give them resources, like you said, Emily. Before we do that though, I just want to go over this other quick little rundown of facts for things that may require an evaluation. So here's some abnormalities during this maturing time that you might want to consider going to ask a doctor about. That's the term. It's THELARCHE. Lethargy. Lethargy. So the breast budding, right?
How do you spell it?
It's
Thelarchy.
LARCHE.
I'm like most positive.
Thelarchy. Thelarchy. Yes,
I'm gonna look
you're
it
right.
up. I think it is.
I think you're right.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
thelarchy. No, you're right. You're right. I think you're right. That sounds right. So, okay. Here's some abnormalities that may require evaluation. Lethargy. Okay. So here's Thelarchy. Okay. I'll get it.
There you
Thelarchy. Go. I just have to say it one time, and then I don't say it again. All right. If you've not started within 3 years of lethargy. So that's the breast. Huh?
Yeah.
Thelarchy.
Yeah,
what did I say? Lethargy. I keep saying leth. I'm starting with it. Thelarchy. If you've not started your period within 3 years of thelarchy. Did I say it?
I would too.
So funny. Breastfeeding. I'm just going to go with breastfeeding. So within 3 years of breastfeeding, if you haven't started your period, that's kind of a sign. So we got boobs, but we don't have your period within 3 years. Have you started you have not started your period by the age of 14, and you have signs of hirsutism, which is like abnormal hair growth. Is that right?
I think so. That one's hard for me.
Hirsutism? Is it hirsutism?
No.
You can correct me. I don't have any shame not pronouncing it right.
Hirsutism. Yeah, what you said is right, I think.
Hirsutism. Yeah. Okay. If you've not started by the age of 14 and you have signs of kind of abnormal hair growth, like around like the facial hair on your chest or around your breasts. If you've not started by age 14 and you have a history of an examination that suggests any type of eating disorder. So you haven't started your period, you're 14, and there's some like excessive exercising, eating disorder going on. That's going to impact that maturing process. If you've not started your period at all by the age of 15, that's just something it could just be it hasn't come yet, but you might just want to have it looked at. If your period occurs more frequently than 21 days or less frequently than every 45 days. So if you're outside that 21 to 45 day range, again, it depends on how outside of it, but still something you might want to mention to the doctor. If your periods occur 90 days apart, so even for just one cycle, that's kind of a long time to go. Definitely a little bit outside of the normal range. If your period itself, the bleeding, lasts more than 7 days, so if you have a really long bleed, if you require frequent tampon or pad changing, like every hour to 2 hours, and it's soaking, something to go get looked at. And if your periods are really heavy and associated with bruising or bleeding, or your family has a history of like any type of bleeding disorder, you want to go get that looked at too. I feel like there was one other thing I wanted to mention about cycle patterns before we shared resources, but now I can't remember what it is. So maybe I'll remember.
Well, I was just going to add to that.
What do you want to share first?
Adding something about cycle patterns. So I think that so I think you did a great job describing what the menstrual flow should look like. And I know we've talked about this on other episodes, but just describing what the mucus pattern looks like also. So,
right. Okay, go ahead.
Typically what a woman is going to experience is that menstrual period. And then typically she's going to experience dry observations when she's wiping with the tissue. And then as things start to progress with that ovulation time, the development of the mucus starts with that increase in estrogen in the body. And so that is typically going to look like a sticky or tacky, kind of cloudy consistency. And then it's going to progress to that clear, stretchy, egg white type mucus that really feel slippery feeling when she's wiping with the tissue, and that sort of thing. And then as the hormones change after an ovulatory event, then the mucus will either stop completely, or she may notice a little bit more mucus after that that's kind of sticky or tacky, kind of cloudy again. Um, and she may notice some of these things in her underwear. You may notice them as a mom as you're doing laundry. That can also be a trigger for, hey, now might be a good time to have these conversations if they haven't already started. If the conversations haven't already started, excuse me. And then this cervical mucus is different than vaginal discharge. So you may notice discharge in the underwear that's not connected to the cervical mucus, and the teen may experience a vaginal discharge of like a kind of pasty, creamy kind of consistency of mucus, and that is different. But those are some of the things that she can be looking for, just to kind of give her a heads up on, hey, my body is changing, things are happening, so that she can be prepared for that first menstrual period. Because I feel like that is the overall goal in this. This is one of my overall goals for young girls, is that you can be prepared so that the experience doesn't have to be traumatic.
Right. And that we can be setting. Yes, I agree. Ditto. Same thing. And that for me too is that we can be setting them up for health, because we know that having ovulating regularly during your reproductive years and having that good dialogue between the brain and the ovaries and back and forth, and having good menstrual periods, really those hormone fluctuations, the good dosage of estrogen and the good dosage of progesterone throughout your reproductive life sets you up for good cardio health, respiratory health, brain health, like breast health. We need it to be healthy. And so that's another good thing that we want to, as we're teaching our young girls as they're growing, is to say, like, look, this isn't just, relevant for your lower half. Like, this impacts your whole body and really sets you up for a long time health. So making sure that we have got healthy cycles. There was a great study, and I'll post it with the show notes too, but I was just reading a really interesting study looking at the menstrual cycle regularity in adolescence and how it was later associated with your cardiometabolic health in early adulthood. So they looked at women that have different cycle regularities in the younger years and how later it showed up in their cardiometabolic health. And it was just so interesting. The more irregularity they had, the less likely they were to be experiencing later health in early adulthood. So anyway, and we have those studies, for so many different areas of the body too. We just know, like, bone health. Oh my gosh, bone health. We really want strong bones. We really need good progesterone and good estrogen. So yeah, there's lots of peripheral reasons why we want this system to be set up well for girls and to know their bodies so they can be confident in that information. Okay, so with the time we have left, let's give out some, if there's any resources we have resources from the other episode we did on just the menstrual cycle, and Emily and I shared kind of our favorites. But here's a couple that are specifically for adolescent girls. So go ahead, Emily. I think you have more than I do. I just have like some research studies and articles, and so I'll post those. I don't have much beyond that. I think you're going to mention the one that I shared with you at some point.
Yeah. So first things first, let's say you're a mom or a teen and you're listening to this and you're like, I do have some symptoms that need to be addressed. Where do you go? So of course you can start with your PCP, your regular doctor, whether that's your daughter still with a pediatrician, or maybe you're a young woman and you're visiting the OBGYN, whatever the case may be. Yes, of course you can start there. If you are given some sort of treatment plan that you don't agree with, whether that's something hormonal to take to address these issues that you're experiencing, and you're not comfortable with that, and we would definitely not recommend using that, the birth control pill, for example, in order to treat any underlying issues that might be going on, especially during this young time, then where do you go? Yes.
Can I say something about that, Emily?
Yes.
Sorry, really quick. I just want to jump in really fast. I do want to just make sure we're clear, though. While we wouldn't suggest it as a medical treatment, there's nothing morally illicit about taking the birth control pill for a medical reason. Okay. So we just want to make sure that that's, that's not a reason to go to confession. There's nothing wrong with that as far as we're speaking morally. We just really don't encourage it as a medical treatment because it's kind of like a Band-Aid. And I'll just share this brief anecdotal story. I was teaching a college elective about this, and we were having a great conversation in class. And this girl came up to me afterwards, and she was so super smart and just really great. And she was just very honest. And she's like, look, Mrs. Smith, like, I get that this is maybe not the best thing. And I'm totally, she's like, she understood everything I was saying. She's like, to be honest with you, I just don't have the time to figure out root cause right now. And so she was very aware that what she was using was very much a Band-Aid to her period pain. And she's like, and I will just get to it. She just was comfortable with saying, like, I'm going to get to it at a later date, even if that means that it's going to be a longer time to find a solution. Like, she knew all the things. It sounded like she was making like a very informed choice. And she was very appreciative of knowing all of those things, because before it was just kind of like, well, I'm going to take this because it deals with the symptoms. And now it was more like, okay, I get that I don't have to take this. It's going to be, but it's a little bit more intensive to kind of do the root cause thing. So I'm just going to take this because I just want to manage the symptoms right now. Does that make sense, Emily? So I wanted to share those two things, say there's nothing wrong with doing it, but we just really don't recommend doing it, especially during these very early years when the system is developing. The last thing we want to do is shut it down when it's just trying to get started and figure things out. Okay, so Emily, you left off with, so what is your solution?
Because that's beautiful.
What is an option?
That's such a good point. Such a good point. Yeah. So where can moms and young girls go, or any woman of any age? So something that I became familiar with recently is called mycatholicdoctor.com. And this whole philosophy and website is trying to bring a virtual Catholic hospital to the patient. And so one of the quotes on their website is, this enables patients to connect with Catholic doctors, and they strive to treat the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. So there are doctors on there for all kinds of things, whether or not you're trying to get help for issues we're talking about, or maybe it's something totally different. This would be a great source that I would highly recommend. And it's state by state. You can see who provides telehealth. These are telehealth appointments. And so anyway, that would be the first place I would go if you're not getting the help that you need in person with your local doctor. And that's my Catholic. No, go
and you
ahead.
don't have to be Catholic. Sorry.
That's correct.
I was going to
That's
say
a
you
really
don't have
good
to
point.
be Catholic to go there. So it's just my Catholic doctor because the doctors on there are Catholic, which means they
Yeah.
ascribe to Catholic medical ethics. So that's why it has that specific title. But Catholic is universal. Anyone can seek out these doctors. We encourage anyone to seek out these doctors. They will work with you if you're not Catholic. Your religious affiliation has nothing to do with whether or not you can access these medical professionals. But it is, yeah, I'm to Emmy's point. And I believe if you look at the doctors themselves, they will tell you kind of what they're trained in. And some of the doctors on there that are trained in a specific fertility awareness-based method will have that on there, that they work with women that do that. So, and by women, we also mean like young girls, anyone
we'll
who's having
put the
cycles.
link in the description, but just to clarify, so it's My Catholic, and then doctor is spelled out. It's not DR, for example. So that's one resource. Another thing is, okay, let's say you're trying to have these conversations with your daughter, you're a mom, or maybe you're a young teen, you're like, I just want more information. I want information I can trust. I want to learn about this, because honestly, the more you learn, to me, it's fascinating. I don't think that's because I do this on a regular basis, as far as, talk to women and couples about stuff like this, but just knowing your body is very empowering. And if I would have known the things that I know now at an earlier age, it would have definitely changed so much of my behavior. And so I know Amy agrees with, we're just so big on good education, because there is research to show that it does cultivate chastity. So one website would be sisterhoodcwa.com. And this is a source for great information for young Catholic women. There's a whole area on this. Amy shared this with me, and I just feel like I just, tell the world about it anytime I talk to somebody, because the website itself, I cannot stress how well done this website is. They have different videos, online quote unquote courses. All of this is free, but there are fertility awareness courses on there. There's help with, not help, it's really educational. It's such a great site. I would hope any young girl and mom would sift through this website. Even newly married couples, I have found that with my engaged couples, I love this site for them too. Especially if you're entering into marriage and you just want more information, because maybe, this wasn't something that you got a lot of education about. So those are a couple of things. And then let's say you're just looking for books for early years for both young girls and young boys. Based on people I've talked to, I've gotten a couple of really great resources, and I've seen them firsthand. There's the book for girls is called The Care and Keeping of You, and it's the body book for younger girls. It's by Valerie Schaefer. And then the young male book for young boys is called Guy Stuff, and it's called The Body Book for Boys by Dr. Karen Natterson. So anyway, we'll link those. Those are just great. There's a journal also that I've recommended to a couple of people. It doesn't have a religious base around it, but it does give a teen an easy way to track their cycle, record symptoms, that sort of thing. I know there's many different ways to do that. So I feel like you can use whatever you're comfortable with in that capacity, whether that's an app or a notebook or something simple. That part does not have to be elaborate. They could have a calendar that they have in their room that they just put notes in the box. So whatever is easy for the young girl to track their cycle, you do not have to spend a lot of money on that by any means. But the information is out there, and there's good information out there in education of what is happening with their bodies and what they can expect.
I also want to pitch The Happy Girl's Guide to Being Whole by Teresa Kenny. That's a great book too. And I will also link to some Laura Bryden resources about her book, The Period Repair Manual. I think that would be really great because she gives awesome supplement recommendations to help with period, just like the normal like period discomforts or things that might be slightly outside of the norm, like maybe a little bit more pain than is normal, but not so much pain that we need to like shut down the system, like or do some drastic underlying corrective issue. Maybe it's just something like take magnesium. Like if you take magnesium the second half of your cycle, your period's going to feel a lot better. I mean, it's such a simple thing that could lead, like magnesium is such a magical. That would be the one supplement. Let's leave that. Let's leave with like my favorite period support supplements are zinc and magnesium. Those would be my favorite supplements. And ashwagandha. That's an adaptogen. I really like ashwagandha a lot to help with kind of mood regulation. So anyway, but I'll also link to Laura Bryden and some of her great resources in her book. Again, The Period Repair Manual. Can't speak highly enough of that. For good resources for addressing period pain and discomfort and issues. So yeah, I think I'll link to I'll link to what Emily suggested and recommended. I'll link to those books. And I'll link to the research articles that I mentioned. So if you guys have any questions, just send us an email and let us know. And we'd be happy to give you some more information, direct you to where you need to go.
For menstrual, just the bleed overall and what that looks like and getting a healthy bleed. A good quality fish oil would be a really great supplement. That can be kind of pricey, but that can really help lubricate everything also during that menstrual period, so the pain can decrease, the blood flow can be a little bit better. There's a lot of good things with that. That would be my number one.
Right. And of course, eating as much as we can, like whole good foods that are not very inflammatory. I know Dr. Bryden talks a lot about if we're having a lot of, discomfort, that sometimes dairy can be a cause of that because it can cause some inflammation. So anyway, there's just know that, it doesn't have to be a pill as a solution. There can be a lot of lifestyle things and supplement support that we can take that has some good evidence to show helping to relieve some of those, more or less like annoying symptoms that come with your period sometimes.
I
So
I just
think
want to
that's
add
everything I wanted to mention.
to
Go ahead,
sum
Emily.
up all of this. I just want every woman, everyone to know, woman or male, how much you're worth. Like, you are worth everything to the Lord. And this really came to me this morning, just thinking about talking about just young girls. This is such a precious time. And the scripture, Isaiah 43:4, just really came into my head. You are precious to me. Like, I feel like the Lord just wants all of us to know that He made all of these parts of us, and every part of us is precious to Him. So He will help us.
That's awesome. What a great way to end it. Okay, guys. So we'll see you next week for another episode. Reach out if you have any questions. And I'll see you later, Emily. Bye.
That wraps up another episode of the NFP Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found our discussion enlightening and empowering. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Please connect with us by sending us an email with your questions and stories to thenfpshow@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with more insights, tips, and heartfelt conversations about natural family planning. Until then, love responsibly.